There is a 5-year clock running on everything you own right now. Your house, your savings, your retirement accounts, all of it. And the moment you need a nursing home, the state is going to use that clock against you. Nobody told you it existed. This is called the Medicaid Lookback Trap. And by the time most men find out, it is already too late to fix. Tonight I am going to show you exactly how it works and the 3 moves that protect you. Nobody told you this clock existed. Not your bank, not your accountant. The social worker who handed you the Medicaid application just smiled and pointed at the pamphlet about community resources. Helpful people, all of them. So let me tell you what they did not. Real quick. Medicaid and Medicare are not the same thing. A lot of men mix those up and it ends up being the most expensive confusion of their entire life. Medicare is the program you paid into your whole working life. Covers hospital stays, doctor visits, some short-term rehab. What it does not cover is long-term nursing home care. The program you funded for 40 years does not cover the one thing most people end up actually needing. And before anyone in the comments mentions it, yes, Medicare covers up to 100 days of skilled nursing. Days 1 through 20 come at full coverage. After that, a copay kicks in that runs about $217 a day in 2026. After day 100, you are completely on your own. 100 days, and the average nursing home stay is 2.5 years. You can finish that math yourself. Moving on. Medicaid is a completely different animal. It is a means-tested program, which is a fancy way of saying you have to be almost completely broke to qualify. According to Medicaid.gov, in most states in 2026, the asset limit is $2,000. A handful of states set it higher. New York sits around $33,000, California higher still. But the trap works exactly the same way regardless of where you live. $2,000 in most states. After 40 years of getting up early, paying taxes, funding these programs, through every single paycheck, the bar to qualify is $2,000. Less than a used transmission. Just something to sit with for a moment. And then it gets worse, because here is where the trap actually lives. The moment you apply for Medicaid, the state does not just look at what you have today. They pull 60 months of your complete financial history and go through every bank transfer, every property move, every check you wrote to anyone. All of it. And they are specifically hunting for assets you moved for less than full market value. Gave your son money for a down payment? On the list. Transferred the house to your daughter to keep it safe? They see it. Donated your old truck to charity. Reviewed. Helped your grandkid with college. Flagged. Paid a family member informally to help around the house. Without a written agreement? Every cent of that is also on the list. And here is my personal favorite. The IRS gift tax exemption lets you give up to $19,000 per person per year, without even filing a gift tax return. Completely legal and completely above board by IRS standards. Medicaid does not care. 2 separate programs running on 2 completely separate rulebooks, and nobody mentioned that either. So basically every normal thing families do for each other, the government has a specific form for. Field alphabetically, right next to the form for your generosity. And if they find a transfer they classify as improper, they calculate what is called a penalty period, a stretch of time where you are completely disqualified from Medicaid coverage, even if you are already in the nursing home and have less than $2,000 left. The bills keep coming and the care does not pause. You are just personally responsible for covering it until the penalty expires. The state sends a very official-looking letter on state letterhead to explain all of this. Very helpful of them. The math on the penalty is simple once you see it. Take the total of the improper transfers, divide by the average monthly cost of nursing home care in your state, and that is your penalty period in months. As a hypothetical, say someone transferred $54,000 to family members over a few years. Birthdays, emergencies, helping out. Completely normal stuff. In a state where nursing home care runs $9,000 a month, that is 6 months of disqualification. 6 months at $9,000 a month out of pocket, and there is no ceiling on that penalty period. The more generous you were, the longer you wait. The system has a complicated relationship with generosity. Now here is where men completely miss it. The obvious instinct when you hear all this is, okay fine, I just stop giving money away from now on. Clean slate, fresh start, problem solved. Except the 5-year clock does not start when you made the transfer. It starts the day you apply for Medicaid, which means if you moved assets 2 years ago, those transfers are sitting right in the middle of the look-back window right now. The clock was running before you ever heard the word Medicaid. Nobody put that in the brochure, shockingly. Right now you are probably doing what every man does at this point. Running through every large transfer you made in the last 5 years in your head. Good. That mental list is your actual exposure, and knowing what is on it is the first step to figuring out what to do about it. Welcome to the part of the evening where you realize you have homework. Let me show you a few more things that trigger this, because people are genuinely surprised by how wide the net is. According to Medicaid.gov, the state reviews money gifted to grandchildren, houses transferred to relatives, vehicles sold below market value, and payments to family caregivers without a formal written contract. That last one is worth saying slowly. If you have been paying your daughter $200 a month to help you out, without a formal personal care agreement in place, the state can flag every dollar of that as an improper transfer. Every act of love that came with a dollar amount, the state keeps better records of than you do. And here is something that trips families up in a crisis, worth knowing well before you ever need it. Dad ends up in the hospital, the doctor says it is going to be long-term, and the family panics and starts moving things fast. Transferring the house, shifting money to the kids, because it feels like protecting the assets. What they are actually doing is creating a brand new set of transfers, inside a fresh 5-year window. The crisis response that feels like protection is the exact thing that generates the penalty. According to SmartAsset's 2026 analysis of Medicaid Lookback penalties, the most common violations come from last-minute transfers made after a health event. Turns out panic is not a recognized Medicaid exemption. The state actually appreciates the urgency though. It gives them more to review. One more layer most people never find out until it is too late. The penalty period does not start the day you apply. It starts the day you would otherwise become eligible, meaning you could apply, qualify in every other way, and still be sitting in a facility with a running bill and zero Medicaid coverage, while the penalty counts down. They are not in a hurry. Decades of experience waiting people out will do that. Whether you have time is a separate conversation. Let me be straight with you for a second. If you are over 60 and you have given money to anyone in the last 5 years, the Medicaid Lookback Trap is not a hypothetical situation for you. That window is open right now on every transfer you made. And look, the men watching this did not get here by being reckless. You worked, you saved, you showed up when it counted. The Medicaid Lookback Trap does not catch irresponsible people. It catches responsible people, men who built something real and then did what good men do, which is take care of the people around them. That is the part that genuinely makes me angry. You did everything right, and the system still has its hand out. The system just forgot to mention it has a 5-year memory and very specific opinions about what you did with your own money. So the question sitting in your head right now is, can any of this actually be fixed? Yes, but only with time, and only before you need the care. Here is what actually works. 3 moves, plain English, no jargon, no law degree required. First, stop all asset transfers right now until you have talked to an elder law attorney. Sounds like something printed on a poster in a waiting room, but men rarely stop because they never knew the clock existed. And anything you move without a plan is something the state gets to scrutinize. Even completely normal transfers, helping your kid, being a good grandfather, create exposure during the look-back window. Good intentions are not a Medicaid exemption. A plan is. And I know what you are thinking right now. I have been giving Christmas money to my grandkids for 15 years. Am I just supposed to stop? Talk to the attorney first. That is literally the whole point of Move 1. Second, ask specifically about an irrevocable Medicaid Asset Protection Trust. Long name, but the concept is actually simple. Assets placed into the right kind of irrevocable trust, set up correctly and far enough outside the 5-year window, are no longer considered yours for Medicaid purposes, so they cannot count them when calculating your penalty. Which is the whole point. Irrevocable sounds like a word specifically designed to scare you away, until you run the penalty period math, and suddenly it sounds a lot more reasonable. Done right by someone who specializes in this. One of the strongest protection strategies available. Done wrong, just a different kind of problem. Hence the attorney, not a YouTube video. And yes, that includes this one. Third, and this is the one almost nobody makes until it is too late. Have this conversation now. Not when the doctor mentions levels of care, not when the diagnosis comes back. Right now, while every option is still on the table, the strategies that protect you require the 5-year clock to run. That is not a technicality, it is the entire mechanism. One meeting costs a few $100s, and men spend more convincing themselves their truck needs new tires. Make the call. One penalty period at $9,000 a month costs considerably more, and the math is not complicated. Here is something most videos on this topic skip entirely, and it genuinely matters. Not every transfer triggers a penalty. According to federal Medicaid guidelines, there are specific protected categories. Your home can be transferred to a spouse without penalty or to a child who is blind or permanently disabled. And here is the one that surprises almost everyone. It can be transferred to an adult child who lived with you for at least 2 years before you entered a facility and provided care that kept you out of a nursing home during that time. That is called the caregiver child exemption. Real, documented in federal Medicaid law, and most families have never heard of it because nobody tells you about the protections. They just send the penalty notice on state letterhead. Very official, very helpful. The difference between someone who knew about that exemption and someone who did not is not luck. It is just information. And now you have it. The Medicaid Lookback Trap catches men who did everything right. That is the part that should make you angry. Save this video somewhere you can find it, and share it with someone you actually care about. There is at least one person in your life who needs to hear this before they need a nursing home. Drop your age and the state you are in down in the comments. Every single one gets read, and your state matters more than most people realize with this one. Some states are dramatically more aggressive about enforcing the look back than others. Dramatically, looking at you, New York, and Ohio, and honestly most of the Northeast. Your state matters. Drop it below. If this has touched your family in some way, drop your story too. It is how the rest of us actually learn. And if you want to know what happens to your bank accounts and your house the moment you pass away, and why most men's estate plans fall apart before they are ever used, that is the next video. I'm Mike. See you there.